Okay, welcome to From Outreach to Enrollment, Effective Strategies for ECE Apprenticeships. Today, we are going to be covering our outreach, recruitment, selection, and enrollment process. We know that in order to have a registered apprenticeship program, we have to have one important thing, and that's apprentices. And this webinar is designed to help you figure out how to outreach and recruit those apprentices. So I am going to have our panelists to um, I'm going to have our panelists to introduce themselves. Let's see. There we go. So please introduce yourselves, your organization, your program type, and the role that you play in the ORSE process. And let's have Ms. Naira go first.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Glad I'm here. So my name is Naira Barahona. I'm an apprenticeship coordinator at the Child Care Resource Center, also known as CCRC. And a little bit about our organization. We are a nonprofit. We also serve children, families, early educators across the Los Angeles County, also the San Bernardino counties. And we provide childcare resources, help with parents with subsidized care, early education programs, and workforce development support. And my role in the ORSE is really to help with the outreach, the recruitment. I participate in selecting the apprentices and also collaborating with HR. So glad I'm here.
Great. Thank you so much, Miss Naira. And it never fails that whenever I do something, I forget because I'm so excited about everyone else, I forget to introduce myself. So I am Sandra Moore, and I'm the Chief Program Officer at ECEPTS, and we are industry sponsor and intermediary, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. And then I'm going to appropriately pass it to Daryl Bright next.
Hello, I'm Daryl Bright, a Registered Apprenticeships Programs Director here at ECEPTS. As Sandra said, we are an industry sponsor here in California and intermediary across the country. And I'm here to just talk about my role in assisting programs as they go through the ORSE process, as well as the registration and enrollment of apprentices with our sponsorship guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much, Daryl. And now we will have Miss Maria, who will introduce herself next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Ramirez. I'm a senior program manager with Partnership for Children and Youth. We are an intermediary that works to ensure every child and family has access to equitable expanded learning providers, as well as supporting the success for expanded learning workforce through the apprenticeship model. And we work with organizations all throughout California also. In this case, I will be representing my previous work with Girls Inc. of Alameda County as a recruitment specialist. And Girls Inc. is an expanded learning provider that runs program I want to say over 10 school sites from Oakland Unified School District. They work with youth from TK to middle school and high school. And they were or are one of the first organizations to launch an expanded learning apprenticeship program. And just briefly, I'll define expanded learning. So expanded learning programs are programs and opportunities where there's learning beyond the traditional school days to support and enhance the learning and development of students. And so expanded learning programs take place either before school, after school, or during summer or school breaks. And it's an opportunity to bridge those gaps between the in-school time and the out-of-school time experience to support the growth of all students. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Maria. And hopefully, joining us at some point in time in the very near future, we will also have Miss Jessica Ramos, who is a success coordinator. Daryl, is that a success coordinator at our youth apprenticeship program at Oakland Unified School District? So Hopefully she will be joining us soon. So now I am going to stop sharing, and Lucia, you can highlight the panel for me. Thank you. And we'll go with our first question. And we'll pass that question over to Naira. So based on the target populations you serve, can you describe your recruitment and selection process? You're on mute.
There you go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so first we do want to make sure that we know who are we targeting. So for our program, we try to target women of color of all ages and different demographics. We do focus on parents who are in their Head Start program and also people from our community. When we start already selecting who is going to be part of the program, we always let them know about our interest form. And this interest form has different eligibility requirements. And then some of the eligibility questions could be, for example, are you 18 years of age and older? Can you read and write in English? Do you work in the US? Are you able to work in the US? Do you have a high school diploma? So there is a process before you even get selected, because we want people to know what the apprenticeship program is. Because a lot of times they hear it and they think, oh, I'm going to be working in the classroom. I'm going to be employed for CCRC, because they know about CCRC, but they may not know that there is a lot of steps toward it. Once they do the interest form, they see that they do meet the requirements, they are eligible. We do point them to our information sessions. So our information sessions are either in person or we also have some in Zoom. And this is where they can learn a little bit more about what is an apprenticeship program, what is a registered apprenticeship program, who are our sponsors, what are some of the expectations, what are some of the benefits about being in our program, what is it going to look like, how long is the apprenticeship program going to be, because it is a commitment to be in a program from possibly 18 to 24 months and completing all of those 2,000 hours that they need to. So that's why we hold those information sessions. After we hold information sessions, they're still interested in our program. We do have to work with HR to meet the requirements if they're going to be employed with CCRC. So we do have to hold phone screenings. And in those phone screenings is for us to kind of know, are they a good fit for this program? And we assess, like, what is their interest? What is their motivation for being in a program? Again, do they understand the apprenticeship model? After we do the phone screenings, if they're still interested, they're eligible, then we have interviews. And they're very informal because they don't need to have any experience to be part of a program, but we want to know, like, are they committed to being in the program? Also, do they have a passion with working with children? And also, do the candidates demonstrate, like, motivation, and are they ready to move forward? And then from there, after we do the interview, we do have a selection process, and that's when we meet with all of our team members and we talk about, like, who would be a good fit to be part of this program. There is a certain amount of number of candidates for our program, but we try to over-select. And the reason for that is because with the process of HR, a lot of times doing all the background check, doing the health screenings, they don't always have all the paperwork required. They start to kind of doing, like, not meet all the requirements. So that's when we have to get people from the wait list who are ready to continue with the process. And since we have a timeline and so we have deadlines for the program, we want to make sure that we immediately have someone else if the ones that we selected are not able to go through the whole process. And that's kind of pretty much it with our selection and our recruitment.
Thank you for that very detailed response. You gave answers to questions that I had in my head before I had a chance to ask them. Thank you very much. I do have one follow-up, and I'm going to let Miss Maria tell us about her program and her target population and recruitment process first.
Thank you. So Girls Inc. Target population is very similar to what Naira just shared. The things that the first things that come to mind that we follow as we're thinking about who we're reaching out to is definitely parents that have students in program already, people who are from the community, recent high school students, previous students that have participated in our programs, those who are interested in working with children, either because they have interest in becoming teachers, counseling, or want that experience, or just want experience in the education field. Definitely also keep in mind community members that represent the students that are in program, which is something that's important to us. And we are a literacy program, so we do also tend to get interest from people who are interested in teaching literacy or have that as an experience. And our recruitment process is very similar, also like like Naira shared. We do have interest forms. We do have info sessions, and the order of it depends. There might be an info session where we share about what not just the apprenticeship program, but the on-the-job training piece. A lot of times people sign up and think that you'll do the school part first, and then it's hard for us to then go through the process and explain, well, you're actually working with Girls Inc. as an employee and an apprentice. So we do the info sessions to kind of support that understanding. And a lot of times people who come from to the info sessions have not done an interest form or are coming to learn. So they'll fill out an interest form there. And that's where we could also catch like that they meet the requirements. And like I shared, the requirements are very similar. Must be 18 and over, have a high school diploma. So those are the two main things that we look at. Yeah, so we follow the process in that way, or sometimes people submit interest forms because they saw a flyer, or we're at a job tabling and saw it there, or a career fair. So if that's the case, depending on the requirements and what they fill out there, it might require like a quick phone screening or just a phone call to share about the program if they weren't at an info session, to make sure there is still that understanding of what the program is and the commitment that comes with it. After that process of those intake forms, then we follow an interview process where we schedule an interview. They're interviewed by the recruitment specialist. We have very specific questions that Girls Inc. has come up with as a team. And so after that interview process takes place, those that information, any strengths, gaps, or things that stand out from the interview is shared with the managers in the Girls Inc. team. And we discuss if the candidates moving forward, pausing, being waitlisted, whatever it may be. And then the recruitment specialist is that point person that gets back to the candidate, that makes sure that either they're scheduling their onboarding process, or they're filling out any other applications, like an employee application or an apprentice intake form. So that recruitment specialist is that point person throughout the whole beginning, like 2-3 weeks of the onboarding process, until we officially have gotten someone into the door and they're introduced to their supervisor and moved on to continue their work with Girls Inc. as an apprentice.
Great. Before I put Daryl on the spot, I have a quick follow-up question for both of you. You started off talking about the interest forms, but how do you decide where to do your outreach before you even get an interest form, or how do you figure out, who you're trying to bring in the door and where you put that flyer? Where does that come from?
Yeah. Well, I think in general, we have to, like I said in the beginning, we have to know who our target population is. So our target population for us, we first want to focus on our Head Start parents.
Okay.
So in order to outreach, and I think I probably was going to mention after that, we collaborate a lot with our Head Start division from 0 to 5. And we have formed those partnerships with the teachers, with the directors, with the FAs. So even with them, we have flyers. So we give them those flyers, and then they can kind of talk a little bit about what our program is. We know that within our program in Head Start, there is a lot of families who are low income, maybe single parent. We know that there is people of color in our programs and also in our communities. So we also do a lot of outreaches in our communities. We also, as an agency, we have different community events, and one of them is the Annabelle Godwin community event that we do, and it's where parents can come, they can have different learning activities, they can learn more about CCRC, and we also give them resources. And that's also a way for us to outreach to those parents that come, or just people really in the community. And we do different things. We also have something called Blackboard, which is like a mass email that we can send to people that parents or just people in the community that are part of CCRC. We use Instagram as well. Websites, like I said, we have flyers, the community events. We're also working on doing like a video documentary as well, just so that we can show what our apprenticeship program is about. And that's something we didn't have before. So we're doing that as well. But yeah, that's kind of how we target like our population for our program.
Great. And Maria, do you have a special way in terms of your outreach and whether or not I believe you also have incumbent workers and what that looks like as different from new workers?
Yeah. So for our incumbent workers, we also they have a schedule where they have trainings every Friday. And so like Naira's shared, we have like organizational events where we have had those info sessions that are specific for our staff that are already working with us but have an interest in the apprenticeship program. And so we've had those where we could answer questions to be more clear and share about the opportunity. And also because they've been with us, they've probably already shared that they maybe started college but dropped out or need that extra support. And so that's a great space to use like our coordinators connection with their staff to bring them into those sessions. The other thing we do that's different is we have Hire Now events. And so those events are Girls Inc. sets them up. They're based on the school year timeline. So usually always happens in the summer because that's when we hire a large group of people, or it happens during like times when it's open enrollment for college classes or courses. We'll hold those events. And those are spaces where people could come and receive an interview like there on the spot. And we'll invite like apprentices who are in the program to share about their experience. And we do like our info session. So those spaces are really great, like to gather like a large group of people. And then, yeah, we definitely use all our partnerships from connecting to high school career coaches or counselors that support us with like their alumni students. And if they know that they have an interest, we do a lot of like career fairs, either colleges or community career fairs. And we also have like job search sites where we constantly have like this information posted.
Great. Thank you so much. And welcome, Miss Jessica. We are so excited to have you join us. Thank you. I am gonna just throw you into the mix here and have you introduce yourself. I kind of told them where you were from already, but your program type and what role you play in the ORSE process. And then we're now also talking about your target population and describing your recruitment and selection process.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Ramos. I am with the Oakland Unified School District Pre-Apprenticeship and Apprenticeship Program, supporting both programs. I'm actually running from a school. I just came running from a high school right now. And so pretty much what I do is I support the pre-apprenticeship program that is offered in our high schools. We have 4 high schools that are in Oakland, part of our pre-apprenticeship program. And we also have 2 cohorts. We have a cohort 24 and a cohort 25 with our apprenticeship program. Is a pipeline from what we hope is for our high schoolers to become educators one day and come back and serve in our community. Kind of like what I did. I was a grad from OUSD schools, went to UC Berkeley and graduated, and now I currently serve as the program coordinator for this program. So it's a full circle, and I really wish that a majority, or hopefully a majority of our students do the same thing as either becoming educators or teachers. And so as part of the recruitment process for the Oakland Unified School District Pre-Apprenticeship Program, what we do is that we kind of go into I go into these schools and I present about the program, tell them how they are, they get dual enrollment units, they get a stipend as long as they pass the class. And the recruitment process kind of is that they fill out this application form, and then the schools or the counselors get to choose if it fits in their master schedule. And then from there, I take it on and I onboard them as for them to be part of the program.
Miss Jessica, you said all that in one breath. Oh. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to put Daryl on the spot. So Daryl, in your experience, because you work as a RAPS director, you work in many different partnerships, can you describe how the recruitment and selection process can be different in a multi-employer situation versus a single employer? And then once you get them, everybody selected, recruited and selected, how do you get them enrolled?
Yes, thank you. So yes, when you're dealing with multi-employers, it's going to be a little bit tricky. And one of the best things you can have from the beginning is just really clearly outlined and defined agreements regarding the target population and how each organization is going to build their selection criteria. All of the things that the programs have just stated before are really taken into consideration, but now you have to do it at a broader scale. And most of the time you want to do this jointly. And all of that really kind of it allows the program to flow a little bit smoother. Because at this point, you've already established what those enrollment procedures look like. Who's going to be the first point of contact? Because this may happen to have to be communicated across multiple organizations. Who's going to follow up with the potential applicants? And again, how is that going to be communicated across multiple agencies? Because you want a clear and concise way to see where people are in the process and where they're going to end up. And not only for each of the employers or each of the colleges involved, really for the apprentices to be able to know who they contact, how they get to where they're going, and what's the next steps in the process. Again, on top of that, you really want to make sure you have that value alignment from the beginning. And sometimes resources are involved in these projects. So you have funds that may come through, and how is that going to be divided? How are the supports going to be divided across multiple entities within the program? And then even in those supports, what does tutoring look like? What is the transportation and other essential supports that aid in the success of apprentices? How is that going to be distributed across multiple partners within the apprenticeship? So again, really having those conversations from the beginning, involving those individuals who need to be involved. There are other things to consider, pay scales. Some partners may pay more than other partners. But then how do you communicate that with your apprentices? What other benefits does your organization offer that may offset some of those? What are your benefits? Do you offer memberships to other opportunities and things in the community? So really being able to sell what you're doing, but also making sure that the values are aligned with all of the partners to understand this is for our communities, and we really want to make sure we're addressing these target issues or challenges that we're having. And lastly, really making sure that your organizational culture still is on this, like, involved in the process. Yes, it may be a multi partnership with employers and multi partnership with colleges, but making sure that you are still ensuring that your organizational culture is being represented, and that also will make apprentices want to be a part of this thing. So really growing your own is where it's going to come from, and making sure that everything is communicated across the board and having those plans to be able to share those opportunities within these employers and multiple colleges.
Great, thank you. And what I'm hearing as a theme, I heard it with, I think almost everybody already, is the importance of communication with the apprentices, which is a really something that we shouldn't lose because we need to make sure they understand what they're enrolling in and what they're embarking on and what this process actually looks like for them and that they're included in every part of the process. So that is an important part. Okay, Miss Jessica, I'm going to throw you back here in the mix. You talked about your pre-apprenticeship with the youth. So, what strategies do you use to advertise pre-apprenticeships, your pre-apprenticeship program in a way that youth clearly understand? We're talking about communication with the apprentices. How do you do that in a way with the youth that they clearly understand how it differs from a regular CTE pathway or internship?
Absolutely. I think when it comes to, I've been able to work with youth for these past 4 years, where so I kind of understand where the youth might be, especially when it comes to our Oakland students. Majority of them do come from, single parent household families who are looking for an extra, financial support. So when you bring up the internships part, when you bring in the fact that, you're supporting your own community, what we do is that we go into these classrooms or we go into classrooms and talk about the program. And majority of them, like, as long as you say a stipend, it's like their eyes like blow up and it's like, oh, like, definitely a stipend supports them. And then as long as they pass the class, it's giving that motivation for them to continue being part of the program. And many of our youth have like a background that they either want to do work in healthcare, want to work in education, want to become child psychologists. So I would give them these options for them to like explore and like, if it's like, hey, as long as you take these classes, you get a little insight. So it's an opening door for them to realize maybe I should, take this program. And that's when it becomes like, okay, what's the difference? What's the difference between of taking just dual enrollment classes and being a part of an apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship program? And so being a part of the pre-apprenticeship program is opening their eyes into them realizing what they can do in the future as in addition to getting those classes. One of the reasons that I tell my story when it comes to these presentations because I really wanted to be a teacher. And then I stepped into a classroom and I was like, you know what, maybe this is not for me. And it's okay for them to realize this earlier in the year and earlier in their life instead of like them realizing 10 years once they graduate and they're like, you know what, this is not for me. So it's opening those eyes and having them explore. That's what the pre-apprenticeship is for them to explore. And maybe if they do love being part of the pre-apprenticeship, that's like when we have our transition to the apprenticeship program where we already have 4 of our students who have done that. And we still are growing. So we have a couple students who are part of the pre-apprenticeship, they graduate, and now they're part of the apprenticeship program where they're working full time and now getting those dual enrollment courses. And I'm super close with my cohort 24. So they're all like getting these master teacher permits hopefully next year. So I'm super excited to see what they're going to do in our Oakland schools. And so that's pretty much what I do other than the outreach. And the outreach obviously involves with doing slides and showing these presentations. And then during the summer, they get to intern and just sharing those showing previous cohorts experiences is what pretty much brings in new cohorts as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. There are 32 people on the call, and I heard you say they get their eyes light up when they hear the word stipend. And out of the 32 people on this call, I know nobody want to work for free. So that's a real thing, and it is exciting to be able to get paid. And it's also exciting to understand what you're interested in early on. So, you know, I believe that we've all seen those teachers who is like, oh, they need to retire. They are not good at this anymore, even if they ever were. So they really should like what they're doing. So I love what you said. Thank you, Miss Jessica. Okay, now we're gonna switch over to Miss Maria. I think it was Naira actually who mentioned working with HR. But I want to ask, why do you feel like it's important to involve HR, the HR department during the workforce analysis and design and recruitment part of the process?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so HR has,
Uh-oh, Miss Maria, we
Can't
can't hear
hear
you
you.
very well.
am I muted? Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, how about now?
Better.
Sorry about that. The cable was loose. But yes, so HR I think it's important to have a collaboration with HR because they have their own internal process and compliance and things that they need to follow. And so again, like you shared, communication is the same with HR. Having that communication is very important so that the process could move smoothly and so that HR understands the role that someone like a recruitment specialist is doing as they're interviewing and moving people forward, as well as the recruitment specialist understanding like what are those needs and compliance things that need to move for HR. So in my experience with Girls Inc., early on we began a collaboration process with HR where we established monthly meetings, we created a timeline for the onboarding process. So there were certain days in the week when I would, by a certain time, by 2 p.m. on Wednesdays, if I had any new hires, HR had that information. And that gave them the time they needed to start moving the person forward. And like Naira said, there's so many little steps that take place for each organization that's where you could lose a person or then you don't hear from them anymore. So really being in collaboration with HR so that I could support if I'm that point person that this new hire, this candidate talk to and they don't know, like, I don't know, I had to fill out this form to get my email, but they didn't do it. And so that stopped the process. They know that they could reach back out to that recruitment specialist. And I know what the process is because I've already communicated with HR. So it's a lot about building those kind of like structures so that the onboarding process goes smoothly. And so in our case, like I shared, we had monthly meetings where we would like just touch base on like, hey, this person didn't complete their I don't know, their timesheets login information, or if someone has to complete something that's required for, Girls Inc., for example, we're mandated reporters. So there's an online training that they have to go through and there's a certain timeline where it has to be done, or TB test, like just those general compliance or like requirements for our staff. And then making sure that we're like communicating, tracking all that information, even to the point where we've had people leave throughout the process or stay for a week or two, and really understanding why was that, what happened, like where was the gap, or trying to figure it out so that we could prevent it or so that we could respond better next time. I had situations where I shared the information with a new candidate, but maybe it was an information overload. So when they met with HR, they're like, what are you talking about? I didn't know I had, and I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure I said it, but let's go back and communicate. And so that's where we would catch those moments and go back to that candidate and talk to them and explain it and hopefully support them along the way so that it could be a smooth onboarding process.
Great, thank you. Miss Maria just talked to us about having a smooth onboarding process and involving HR, but an entity that I think we may not think about very often is a collective bargaining unit. So I'm going to ask Daryl if he will speak about why that's important for us to think about and how sometimes we can forget, but we really shouldn't. So enlighten us, Daryl.
Absolutely. And actually, if we are a program that we're sponsoring as a registered apprenticeship program, there must be a union acknowledgement letter submitted with the registration of the program. So the union has to know what is going on within the parameters of the apprenticeship. And that also has to go into the registration of the program. Again, as Sandra says, there are collective bargaining agreements that may be impacted by the situation. And again, letting the union understand sometimes that it's very simple. They are very supportive. It's pretty easy. They give the letter. Sometimes it's a little bit more of a process. And there are timelines and things of that nature when meetings happen. So when building your program, understanding the timelines of when you can get to your union rep or when these meetings or these things take place, again, may impact your launch and be able to get registered. So really thinking about these things from the beginning, if you do have a union, and involving them in the process from the beginning so you can build those checkpoints within your timeline.
And I will just piggyback onto that answer and say that we did have a partnership in the past where some of the employees were complaining because the apprentices were getting special things that the other employees were not getting, and that became of major interest to the union. So it took a lot for us to work that out. So it's very important that the union be involved and they understand what's happening and what kind of program you're building and who you're building that program for. Okay, let's go to Miss Naira. Let's come back to Miss Naira. Miss Naira, you have had 3 cohorts. This is your 3rd cohort. Can you
Yes.
share some of the key learnings that you've had from one cohort to the next and sort of where you are in terms of understanding how to strengthen your process and do it more on your own, whereas before you had a lot more technical assistance?
Yeah. So it is our 3rd one, and hopefully in spring we would have another one, starting another one. I think it's a lot of learning because in the beginning, this program was very new to the Child Care Resource Center. We have not had an apprenticeship program. So it was a lot of growth and a lot of learning. And now I feel like we have strengthened the process. And I believe it was Maria that kind of shared, it kind of starts with the outreach. One thing that I didn't mention was that our HR department actually put our apprenticeship program in Indeed, and also like another place where they post jobs. So that was something that we had to collaborate with them to make sure that the way that the language that they use, the way that they post it, that it makes sure it's for whoever applied that understood like what is an apprenticeship program. So we were able to partner more with HR and just with different with the Head Start, right? Like that was a strength because I think in the beginning it was just like we just need people, right? We need the people to just come to our apprenticeship program. But now I think we know what are the key words, what's the key language. I believe Jessica said it, right? Like the lights light up when you say about, oh, ours is a earn and learn, but you're also going to get free tuition. So that's something that you want to highlight. And then what does that mean? And what is an earn and learn model? You're going to have cohort learning. So I think the way that we did our outreaches really changed. And again, it's made the process more like it strengthened the process. And throughout, and I think I mentioned it before, we have more stronger relationships because now the teachers in our Head Start sites, the directors, the supervisors, they understand what is the apprenticeship program, and now we use them to get those people that may be interested or that they think will be a good fit for our program. We also have more clear communication. We put different things in place to communicate. We have more meetings. There's also more updates that we give between like the colleges, when we meet with the sponsors, again with our Head Start division. And like I had mentioned before, we have expanded our outreach methods and our recruiting methods. So like I said, we use the Blackboard. We're working on that video that we're doing. We've also went to college fairs as well to kind of talk about our program and get that population. I attend the parent meetings, the Head Start, where I also, again, I want to focus on the Head Start parents and also just getting like the referrals, like I said, from our FAs, our teachers, and our directors. So I think like everything has been able to flow better now. That is our 3rd cohort, where in the beginning was like, okay, where do we get them? This is what we need to do. And also getting the buy-in from our Head Start program, because there wasn't a lot of understanding. What is an apprenticeship? How is it going to benefit us, right? I think as teacher mentors, you could also be seen, okay, now we have another person in our classroom, rather than like, oh, this can be an opportunity for me to grow in my leadership skills. So there's more buy-in and more understanding of just the benefits of having an apprentice in the classroom. And I think overall, just being flexible knowing that apprentices have different needs. For example, working with HR, going through the background checks, doing all the health screenings, that's when we're kind of there to help them and support them through the process. Because there has been a few where they didn't have a clinic to go to do their health screenings. So that's where we come in, and then we give them a list of different free clinics that they can go to. So just little things that is going to make the process easier for them. And I think that's pretty much it that I can think of right now with just how we've strengthened our program.
No, that was great. Thank you. And you made a comment, and I'm going to make a quick shameless but not so shameless plug. You said for the people who don't understand your organization not understanding what an apprenticeship was. We have a boot camp at ECEPTS for anybody who's on this call. I'm going to share a flyer as we get to the end. So shameless but not shameless plug. Okay, so let's move on. Miss Jessica, you work with youth. So what role do the parents play in the recruitment process? How do you have to engage them? What do you do to get them involved with their children?
Yeah, so we are focused more on our high school. We would call it adulting because, especially majority of our high school students, it's more on that leverage. I guess we have more leverage as in like we now speak directly to the high schooler and hope that the high schooler, tells the parents and everything. That's what we kind of do want to work on, is having more parent engagement. But what we have seen is that majority of our parents are really in support of the program just because, again, their students are receiving a stipend, they're passing a dual enrollment class. And once at my position here, especially for our newcomer students who are part of this program, is contacting the parents and letting them know what their student is getting involved, especially those who don't have no knowledge of how the U.S. systems education works, especially since majority of our students are Black and brown, and that's our main target. Majority of the parents are really, I want to say, like hands-on. So I do get a lot of calls just to verify their students actually in a program. It's not just like, oh, my student's getting this money from nowhere, or and I think when it comes to onboarding them, we do need their social and a form of ID. So that's another one. I did have to take a lot of students to the DMV just to get their California ID, and that was like a whole different thing, like, obviously contacting the parents and letting them know what their student is doing, why is your student going to the DMV, why are all these things necessary. And that's how we try to get more parent engagement. But in addition, majority of our students are in the age that they are, like, starting to realize that they're adulting and have to know their social security, know that they need a form of identification as they get older. So that's what our parent engagement looks like, but we do want to start having more, more engagement with parents, especially having at least a meeting, or in addition to, we also send them with a packet back home where it does say all their information, and that's where they contact me about, any questions regarding the program.
Okay, well, since you're working with them on adulting, you can also work with me on adulting because it's hard and it's not always fun. I'll look you up, Miss Jessica. Okay, let's move on. Daryl, let's come to you. From an intermediary and technical assistance standpoint, what are some of the things that you think are important to highlight around the ORSE process, since we do know how important it is in terms of bringing apprentices on?
Absolutely. It really is, as everybody kind of said today, being upfront and with the information and communication about what registered apprenticeship is. In addition, we really like to see the visibility of the sponsorship and messaging, and letting individuals know the benefits of being a part of a registered apprenticeship. It's not just a training program. It's not just an on-the-job program. It is a registered apprenticeship, and what that means and how that plays out within the whole process of it. Again, you really want it as a sponsor. When you have those selection procedures that take place, we do have to register apprentices, and there are forms that need to be filled out for the Department of Labor or the Division of Apprenticeship Standards here in California that we do for our sponsored program. So really understanding and getting that process aligned and who's going to be responsible for submitting a lot of the paperwork that comes along with that. There are timesheets that may be involved, or grade reports, how those are going to be distributed, collected, and then uploaded into the system that, again, if you're working with ECEPTS, we have the bill within who's going to be responsible for that, and who is the person that we can follow up with when we're looking for certain things to be uploaded. So really having those conversations within your organization, and again within the partnerships that you do build for this apprenticeship, because it's definitely not going to be done alone. And I think all these individuals on the call really highlighted the impact of involving the other departments within your agencies in understanding what apprenticeship is and how it also benefits. There will be a lot of onboarding within your own agencies, or education within your own agencies. And then also maybe having an opportunity to involve them in some of the processes, the center directors, area managers, and things of that nature, so that they are not only involved and maybe have some skin in the game, but they understand what's going on within this process. I would say, again, having things clear, upfront, outlined, and continue communication to check in. We'll keep everything on track.
Okay, great. Thank you, Daryl. I am going to throw out one more question for anyone to answer before we move on. As we talk about recruitment and bringing all of our participants on, what happens when your number that you're trying to recruit is 10, or your number that you're trying to recruit is 5 or 15, or whatever your target number is? What happens when you recruit over that number? How do you take care of the ones that are, do you get a wait list, or what do you do with that overflow?
I can go. I think I mentioned that a little bit. So our target for this last cohort was 20. And we recruited like 15 more. And like I said, a lot of them, they start kind of, removing themselves from the program once those background checks come in. They don't have the required paperwork that they need to turn into HR. They don't have, they're not getting their health screenings. So a lot of the times during that process is when I see that they kind of, we have to kind of move on. And it's unfortunate, or they're like, oh, I didn't know it was all this work, or whatever happens, they decide not to continue in the program. So we always have a wait list. And according to the interview, depending, because there's always really great candidates, so it's very difficult with the selection. But we also have a ranking from 1 to 5 during our interview that also says, okay, I saw this highlight in this candidate. They could be good, but right now we're going to go with someone else. So we do have a list. We gave it to HR, and they are the ones that they go one by one. One doesn't come through, they just go to the next one. But we're the one that kind of lets them know, hey, you can start with these and then go all the way down. And then some of the ones that maybe we're not sure of is that maybe they're not sure of being part of the program, or there's something where we didn't see that motivation, or they're more like, oh, well, I just want to work for CCRC and I'm thinking about this. But we haven't seen that passion that they want to work with children, or they may be unsure. But that's okay too, right? Because even people that are sure, once they come into the program, they're like, this is not what I thought it was. This is very difficult. This is challenging. There's a lot of kids crying. What do I do? This is not for me. And then that can be okay too. But I would say we always try to have over-select because we do have a timeline. We do have certain goals we need to meet at certain times. So we have to make sure if one doesn't come through, we have to go immediately to the next one.
And and this can be, anybody else can chime in as well. We got just a few more minutes before we got to move on. If you have somebody who wants to still be on the list, do you maintain contact? Do you invite them to things to keep them interested? Do you invite them to the next cohort that you're building?
I guess I can share no others. There was one that, again, because she went through the background check and everything goes to the DOJ and the FBI, she did have something in her record where she had to get documentation for. So that was a very long process and HR couldn't wait that long for her. So what we did, we just invited her and let her know that we were going to have another cohort soon. And if by that time everything was cleared, she can reapply again. So we do give them opportunities, but again, it depends on the situation at the time.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to share my screen because I do want to make sure that one of the ways that you can do recruitment and selection, are you all seeing my screen? Yes? Okay. Well, one of the ways to do a recruitment process, if you're trying to talk to young people or people in general about what your apprenticeship program is, you can do a video and they can hear it from the apprentices themselves. So we are going to share with you just a quick video. It's about 3 minutes of the Girls Inc. program, so you all can see an example of what a good recruitment video could be. Uh, here we go.
Before the apprenticeship, I was just looking for a job. I was going to college, but the classes weren't going so well. They were kind of hard. I came across the Girls Inc. apprenticeship. I said, okay, this looks like something for me. I am going to school currently. I had one class under my belt, but that was kind of iffy. Our apprentices work with Girls Inc. part-time in after-school program. They take their coursework here with us. They can come to Girls Inc. and have us as their employer, but also have our support in their pursuit of higher education. Tell me what's on top for everybody before we jump in. How are you feeling today about today's class? We basically just had a restorative justice circle and I talked to them about my experiences of being bullied and how that really can change someone's life. Some of our apprentices need the financial stability of a job. Some of them really want to continue their education and really value the support that an apprenticeship provides, where they get annual salary increases, where they get paid on the job training. And so if there are any supports that the apprentices need around accessing food, transportation, housing resources for childcare, then we also have a team of people who are able to gather those resources. When can it be hard to be yourself? In Oakland, we have our students of color, our Black and brown students who have adults who don't look like them, who have different lived experiences, aren't necessarily from the community. And with the apprenticeship program, young people are coming to our programs after school, feeling connected to the adults they're working with, who reflect them, reflect their family. These adults might also be their teachers one day. I had a student and she's like, you're my first Hispanic teacher. Like, I've never had a Hispanic teacher. She's like, you made history. An apprentice that finishes the apprenticeship program will have 48 transferable units towards an associate degree. They will also have had 2,000 work hours where they would have had hands-on experience. And then they also would have experienced mentorship, coaching, and guidance throughout the 2 years of the program. I see growth in myself. I see growth in my education. If I was doing another job just to try to, pay the bills or make a way, I don't know if I would accomplish the same thing. Going to school and working at the same time is never going to be easy. But when you have a team of people behind you to make sure that you have all of the resource and access to be successful, then it is worth the challenges. What I would tell someone who's interested in the apprenticeship is to go for it. It's a great opportunity. There's a lot of resources here, a lot of help. You're not alone. And there's other that's probably in the same shoes as you. What I would want apprentices to feel is a sense of impact, that they were able to have impact on their community, on the lives of young people, and on themselves, their family, and their future.
Okay. I apologize for running a little late. I am going to wrap us up very quickly. I just wanted you all to be able to see what a good recruitment video could look like. And let's see if we can get to my next slide, which we don't seem to be able to do. I don't know why it's not going. Okay, let me just tell you about our next boot camp that is coming in February. ECEPTS team, help me with the dates. It's going to be in Charlotte. I have a slide, but for some reason it won't share, and I don't want to keep everybody on the line. We got 26 people here. Charlotte boot camp is February.
4th and 5th.
Thank you. February 4th and 5th. And then we also have our annual conference which will be in San Diego this year, which is going to be May
5th through 7th.
5th through 7th. Thank you, Lucia. So that is it. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. You will receive, everybody who registered will be on our mailing list. So you will get an email blast about our boot camp and our conference. So thank you very much. I hope you guys picked up some good information, and we'll see you soon. Have a wonderful day.